On a fictional day, the clouds are gathering outside. A detective named Art is slowly dying on a gravestone as he'd just been stabbed by a brutal, ruthless man named Moral. Rain begins to pour. Moral starts to walk away, and then he stops and turns around and says, "It feels nice to do good deeds." He pulls out a gun and shoots Art multiple times, killing him instantly, leaving no chance for any survival. This scene from the anime Hamatora the animation is quite a surprise, not because of the way Art was killed. Rather, it was the fact that he was killed, even though he was a main character. And this pertains to the human condition to some extent, because if you think about it, we're all the protagonists of our lives, of our stories, but we're vulnerable beings, so we can die just as easily as Art did. And it's this idea of vulnerability that we've just come to understand through a simple moment in an anime. Now, if you think about it, we can learn a lot about how we function as individuals and societies through anime, through analyzing aspects of anime. We can gain new pieces of knowledge just by watching things. And if you think about it, all knowledge as we know it is human knowledge. Therefore, the more practical knowledge we can gain from anime, the more we'll understand about ourselves as human beings. I have been an anime fanatic of 3 years, and I've sampled a little over 300 shows. Yes, I know, that's quite a bit. I need to get a life. But what bothers me the most is when people regard all anime as childish, when actually it's not, because there are concepts that children seldom understand, such as the immense amount of knowledge this medium can teach us about the human race. After doing a fair bit of personal research, I've found something about anime, and that's that anime, which explores the human condition, often with support from various disciplines, has something for everyone. Now, I know the primary demographic may be adults, but the thematic lessons are applicable to all ages. So if we took any anime, we'd find that there's at least one lesson in there about what it means to be human. So if we took 3 dissimilar animes and analyzed aspects of them, sometimes with the help of those relevant areas of study, then we'd find out something about being human. As an illustration, we'll take parts of 3 animes and examine their relevance to the human condition. To begin with, a quote from the futuristic dystopian anime Psychopaths acts as a wonderful stimulus for the human tendency to have emotional attachments to objects and people. In a scene, the primary antagonist, Makishima, recommends a book to his accomplice. His accomplice expresses interest in this recommended book by saying he'll download the ebook version later, to which Makishima responds by saying, "Why don't you buy paper books? Ebooks lack character." If you looked at this from a very media studies, media consumption perspective, what Makishima says is actually quite true in many ways. In 2013, Princeton Survey Research Associates International found that 70% of Americans own ebook readers, but only 4% of them actually prefer reading ebooks all the time. Whereas The Guardian did a similar survey to this, and they found that 62% of 16 to 24-year-olds preferred reading print books over ebooks. Subsequently, they wanted to know why. So with some further questioning, they found that those who preferred reading print books over ebooks were emotionally attached to their print books to the point of regarding them as people. This ties in really well with what Makishima says about print books having more character than ebooks. And it's quite literal in this sense, too. So in essence, what we just learned from this anime quote was that we as humans have emotional attachments to objects and people. Now, do we need to do that amount of research just to understand one simple anime element? The answer is no. Actually, we could look at things from a more mental yet critical level. If we take the sports anime Kuroko in a Basket, for instance, the title character Kuroko says a wonderful quote about the outcome of basketball games. He says, "If there's no one happy, is it really a victory?" From a philosophical perspective, one could wonder what is considered victory and what is it determined by. Furthermore, the assumptions of Kuroko's statement claim a correlation between happiness and victory. Do you have to be happy to consider something a victory? There are countless rhetorical questions we could spend hours dwelling on, but instead of finding the answers for them, we just found out something about the human condition. And that's uncertainty. There's nothing more fundamentally human than not being all-knowing, even within a knowledge system of our own creation. There's something we all don't know, and it's questions like Kuroko's that bring forth that part of us that's uncertain. So right now, we just learned another thing about the human condition through yet another anime quote. Now, is it always anime quotes that drive that part of us that wants to think all the time? The answer, once again, is no. Actually, you could take a well-structured anime scene or moment and analyze that, such as one from the historical anime Pandora Hearts, and you could think about that one. Now, in a very touching scene, there was a poor girl who was selling flowers by the roadside, and a rich lady walks by and knocks the girl's flowers to the ground while calling her filth and then walks away. The poor girl starts picking up her flowers. The protagonist of the story, a young boy named Oz, comes and helps the girl pick up her flowers. To thank him, she gives him one of her flowers, and he gladly accepts and thanks her. But he looks at the flower and he says, "This flower is very pretty." But he takes it and he puts it in the girl's hair and he says, "Now it's even prettier." How many of you went, "Aw," at that? Come on, be honest, people. Yeah, a lot of you did. Well, what you most likely heard of and are probably experiencing is something called compassion. Did I mention it's part of the human condition? And we didn't even need a relevant area of study or a relevant discipline to get that. All we needed was a well-structured scene in an anime. All things considered, we just learned 4 things about the human condition from anime, and that's vulnerability, emotional attachment, uncertainty, and compassion, all of which make us human. That is to sum up that anime, which explores the human condition, has something for everyone. And that something is knowledge. The knowledge about ourselves which we can use anywhere, anyhow, anytime. Thank you.